G'day, I'm Steve. Welcome to Stand Up Moto. Now this is part 2 of my review of the CFMoto 450 MT, or if you're in the US, the Ibex 450. Part 1, we had a close look at the bike in detail, and I'll put the link to part 1 in the description below. In this section of, well, part 2 of 2, we have a look at the bike on the road. I ride it in the city, I ride it in the hills, and of course what I think it's meant for, I put it into the dirt. And yeah, look, I'll leave my summary and conclusion. You may be surprised by that at the end of the video. What I will do is put a timeline up on the screen, so if you do want to skip ahead, you're more than welcome, or of course you can just follow the chapters below. If you like the video, don't forget to give us the thumbs up and subscribe. But I think for now,
let's get started.
Now, just before we get to what it's like to ride in the city, something I neglected to mention in part 1 of my review was the price. In Australian dollars, this bike comes in just shy of 10,000 Aussie dollars. If you put AUD into Google and then your currency, that will give you an idea of the price. I think it is really, really well priced for this bike. It is well featured, as we saw in part 1 of the review, that I will put the link to, by the way, in the description below if I haven't mentioned that. It's a very good price. The bike comes with a 2-year warranty, but if you opt to have the bike serviced at a CFMoto dealer, they will put an extra 12 months of warranty on top of that. That's pretty good, especially for a bike that is dual purpose. As far as the weight is concerned, it's 195 kilos. That's, what would that be? A little over 430 pounds. It's not over intimidating with its weight. It's a very manageable weight. If the 250-300cc bikes are a bit light for you, the 1200 odd cc or thousands, etc., are a bit heavy, and I know I've got a couple of those. They can be very intimidating off-road. If they're too heavy, this fits in the middle. And it's a confidence-inspiring bike. If you ride it to and fro to work during the week, and then on the weekends you hit a few trails, you're not going to get out there and lose your confidence. As I said, it's confidence-inspiring. It's very, very good. Seat height is tall. It's 32.5 inches, or about 820 millimetres. That is a tall seat. You can get a lower seat option, 1.5 inches lower, or you can get a taller seat option, which this bike is fitted with, 1.5 inches higher. So seat height, it's all right. As far as the speedometer, you won't see any fade in this speedo for the entire review that I do on this bike. It is clear all the time, unless, I might add, as my wife mentioned, when she was wearing her Polaroids, the speedo disappeared. So you've got to be careful of that if you're wearing Polaroids. And speaking of my wife, I asked her this morning not to bring out the red one. And what does she do? She brings out the red one. I don't know, she just doesn't listen sometimes. Never mind. Okay, we'll follow her down here and see where she's headed. Now, okay, spoken about Speedo, the clutch. Clutch is crazy light. You certainly don't get sore fingers with the clutch. That's good. Adjustable lever. Brakes work well. Once again, adjustable lever, which is good. So, oh, look at that. That's nice, isn't it? The Volvo driver is moving across to allow me to continue filtering down the centre. That's worth a nod. Thank you. Isn't it nice when drivers are considerate? If only all of them were like that. If you're allowed to filter in your part of the world, you'll understand what I'm saying. Yeah, the brakes are good. Clutch is good. And when you need to accelerate away from the lights, as I did here, I mean, that was about half throttle. And it pulls away like a bullet. So, yeah, no issues there whatsoever. One of the things I have had put to me is, in fact, I had them in the comments, and I've done a bit of reading since then, is some riders or owners have suffered a surging issue. Now, I didn't suffer that issue with this bike. Apparently it gets a bit of jerkiness around that 3,000 RPM mark. Whether that's to do with adjustment in the cables or what, I'm not sure. This is a second-hand bike. It used to belong to the service advisor, chap by the name of Warren at Moto Adelaide. Lovely bloke, and he set this bike up to suit himself, and I guess being in the business, he knows what he's doing. So, yeah, this bike didn't suffer from it, but I do hear that some do. He was also telling me about the great app that connects to this bike, so that's worth investigating. I didn't get there and do the checking out of the app and downloading, etc. Now, this turns in pretty slow, I will admit. However, 70/30 tyres, 21-inch front wheel. It's a dual-purpose bike. I'm sitting up quite tall, and I come into this left-hander here. Everything's looking pretty good. I just set it up. I apex it about right, get on the power. The back starts to come out. The bike, well, she was going to go. I straighten the bike up, get on the brakes, and yeah, it bails me out. The reason I point this out, and I know a lot of riders or reviewers won't show you things like that, but the reason I point that out, I got over too far on the knobs on the rear tyre. As the back swung out, I pulled the bike back up again. There was no way it was going to switch back and make the apex. I got on the brakes, I had very little dive, and the bike bailed me out of what could have been a pretty awkward situation. So I think that is worth showing when a bike has that capability. Anyway, next thing is the Freeway.
So sitting along at 110 kilometres an hour, that's a little shy of 70 mile an hour. Gee, it revs. Let's have a look at that. A little over 6,000 RPM. I love this. Watch this with the windscreen. One-handed. Just turn the windscreen up to its full, and look at that. Straight away, total windbreaking on my chest. I'm getting a little bit of a crosswind here from the right. A TFT dash. Look at that. It's just so beautiful and clear. Absolutely wonderful. There's your gear selector there. So if I put it down a gear, that's into fifth. Gee, she's up over 7,000 RPM there. Put it back into sixth, which is top gear. Yeah.
If you're going to be doing overtaking moves on the freeway, etc., I'm sitting along here at about 60 odd mile an hour, 100 kilometers per hour. It doesn't have that low end torque you expect from a long stroke motor because it's a short stroke motor. As we mentioned, I'll slow it down to about 50 mile an hour, 80 kilometers an hour. And when I go to accelerate away here, no, nothing. Put it down to fifth, nothing. Put it into fourth and bang, away it goes. So you do need to whack it down a couple of gears for overtakes.
Well, there you go. That's about an 80 kilometre ride or about a 50 mile ride. Amy, my dear wife, what did you think of that?
I think it's really nice. It revs a bit high, I thought.
It is a high rever, yes.
But it's really nice. It's a nice, pleasant bike to ride.
Good. I actually think cosmetically, it's a really nice looking bike. Just pulled up here to put a bit of power in my camera. But I think they've got the cosmetics right on this one.
The best fuel consumption I saw during this review was 3.7 litres per 100 kilometres. That's about 62 mile. I'll put the formulas up on the screen in miles to the gallon. The worst I saw was 5.2, riding it hard, as you'll see later in the video. That's fairly respectable. So now as we leave the black stuff behind and we get onto the dirt roads, that's where this bike shines. I'm doing 100 kilometres an hour here, a little over 60 mile an hour, and it's as straight as an arrow. It's really good. I've got the traction control off, the one button push. If I showed that, no, I will in a minute. I can just hit the back brake here, start to bring the back around. You've got to flick the clutch. It doesn't have that straight up torque. Give the clutch a flick, back will come out. It will straighten up instantly, and away you go. Really, really good. And we also spoke about the air filter and how easy it is to change. Why is that important? When you're out riding with other riders, and it doesn't look that dusty, does it? But it's a lot more dusty than it looks. You can give that air filter a clean in 5 minutes. You can do it during your drinks stop, your lunch break. It's a really, really simple air filter to clean. During the first review, we had a look at what it's like as far as acceleration on the bitumen, 0 to 100, all that sort of thing. And of course, there's no wheel spin on the bitumen. But what's it like when you hit the dirt with the traction control on?
So this one's the difference between taking off with the traction control on and the traction control off. So here we go, traction control on. Now you do have to be stopped to turn off the traction control, but here we go, we'll turn it off. See up here now, it's come on off-road and a little ABS with a line through it.
So now I've had the bike long enough to set up the suspension. Have a look how stable it is with the tank cam at speed. The helmet cam, not so much, but you can see this surface, it's horrible, and yet this bike just eats it.
Whoa, sand.
Flick turns are basic and simple. Of course, flick turns are fine when you're unloaded, but if you're loaded with gear and you need to do a ramp turn, it can be very tricky. This handles it really well. Normally when you do this slow speed stuff, you would be standing. I deliberately sit here just to show how simple it does do the turning. Slip the clutch, look through the turn, you can slow it right down, it's good. Now I spoke earlier about that super light clutch. This is where it comes into itself here. This is a crust over sand, and in Australia we have a gazillion acres of this type of land. You go camping, you find a good spot, and you go out exploring. I love doing this, but you have to be careful. It's, as I said, crust over sand. If you drop that clutch out or it's a bitey clutch, it's so easy to bury the rear wheel. I did this for about 2.5 hours, didn't get sore fingers like clutch, but more importantly, the clutch itself didn't get grubby when it heated up. It stayed exactly the same for the whole test period.
Touch. What's it like to actually pick up? It's reasonably top heavy. I can't really get into it with my back there. Try just going a deadlift. No, not on the knees. So I'll try bringing the body over. Okay. That's not too bad, it's not light, but at least you can get it up on your own.
Ground clearance wise, I think it's got about 220 mil or 8 inches of clearance. That's plenty for jumping rocks like this 10-inch rock. Coming down, of course, the sump guard. There you go, little touch. Sump is a whole lot closer to the front wheel, so remember that. And of course, going up and over, best ways to jump it, just make sure you've got enough pressure in that rear wheel so you don't damage your rim. Here is where it's fun. Now this is an 8-foot climb here, and there's no way I would attempt this on my 1200, but this just walks up it like a billy goat. Now, see dirt, will jump. I have to, if I see a pile of dirt. Over here, I'm only doing about 60 kilometres an hour or 40 mile an hour. But something very interesting happened on my second jump. So it all looks fine in standard speed, but when I slow the film down here, you can see I hit a series of rocks. There's the front wheel there, about to hit it, and then it threw the front wheel out to the left, the bike went to the right. I just stood my body up and accelerated away. It stood up beautifully. A lot of bikes wouldn't do that. So we've just left the bitumen. This is how simple it is to turn off the traction control, stop the bike, you see my left thumb there, hold it on the button, 3 seconds, over, done. We're ready to hit the trail and ride the sand, and I love riding sand.
This just shouldn't be this good.
You know, this bike really does ride well beyond its price tag. This is good on-road, it is very, very good off-road. If you were going to be doing long-distance transits, as in touring, I think I would step it up a tooth on the front sprocket, but it has quality KYB adjustable suspension, and it is a little gem to ride. It's well balanced. On this track here, I'm doing 100 kilometres an hour or 62 odd mile an hour. Head is down, backside is out over the rear of the bike. I'm keeping the front wheel light, 5th gear, so as I can just accelerate and lift the front wheel over the ruts. Hasn't quite got the power to do it in top, but yeah, this is a little gem, this bike, and it is very confidence inspiring.
So what is my summary and conclusion of the CFMoto 450 MT? This is a very good bike. If you can just get your head around the whole, it's made in China. Many years ago, of course, we had the same scenario when the Japanese bikes hit the, what will we call it, Europe and the Western world. People, oh, Japanese motorbike. But of course, history shows, doesn't it? They now rule the world as far as motorbike sales. And the Chinese have arrived. This bike with its features, things like folding mirrors, great, they work. I mean, they're just such a good idea. The single push button ABS traction control to turn it off on the rear. There's no scrolling through menus or anything. Stop the bike, push the button, hold it for about 3 or 4 seconds. That's it, it's off, you're ready to go. If you've been on the highway and you had your windscreen up high, of course, this is the, as I think I mentioned, this is the touring shield, but your screen's been up high. We're now hitting the scrub one-handed. No need to even take your gloves off. Turn the screen down. USB ports. It's got a USB-A and a USB-C. I'm not sure if I showed that or not. So you can have your GPS system running, you can have your phone charging at the same time. Nice little weatherproof cover on there. Tubeless wheels and tyres, spoked. Not tubeless tyres, well yeah, tubeless tyres. But spoked, tubeless rims and tyres. That just broadens what tyres you can run on this bike. Easy, simple to maintain. 17 litre tank. Now, if you're riding this properly, I can't see why that wouldn't give you at least 400 kilometres of range. That's a lot of range for a dual purpose off-road. And when I say dual purpose off-road, if you see my other videos, you'd know I've got the Super Tenere and my 1200 Triumph Explorer. They are just great bikes for long distance touring. But in all honesty, this 450 would absolutely eat them when we get into the sand, dirt, track type environment work. That's what this bike is made for. And saying that as well, of course, if you take off these super aggressive tyres, you put a top box on. This has got the high seat option. I prefer the high seat. You've got a high standard and a low seat. You could put the low seat on. You've got that lowering link, which I've never seen before, where you can just drop the shocker down to another level. You could lower this bike mechanically and with the seat, top box, a set of less aggressive tyres. This would actually make a very good city commuter type bike. The all-round package here, it really is, it's brilliant. Would I own one of these bikes? Would I have one in my garage? Look, the answer is yes, I would.
Why they stopping me?